Hi everyone, hope you're having a wonderful day. This is Tony. We are here at the Africa Bioinformatics Institute, the annual general meeting, and today is the last day. And here I have one of our participants with us. So tell us about yourself, sir.
Morning, everyone. I'm Palwan from Burkina Faso. I work at the Clinical Research Unit of Nanuro and at the MRC Unit Gambia. I'm a lead human genetics epidemiology. I've actually been appointed a member of the ABI as associate group leader, and I'm leading the effort in Burkina Faso in terms of bioinformatics. This annual general meeting and the ABI from its creation is responding to a need in terms of bioinformatic capacity and bringing together all the experts on the continent in terms of being able to work in an harmonized way to improve the synergy among researchers and to share some capacity and infrastructure as well and contribute to the training on the continent.
So tell us about your work specifically. What type of research are you doing? Is it more human? Is it more pathogen? Is it communicable, non-communicable disease?
I work mainly on non-communicable disease and on human. I'm looking at genetic susceptibility to disease, mainly cardiometabolic disease and cancers as well, in terms of susceptibility to develop cancer and to severity of the disease.
And then in your institution, is there enough support? Is there enough infrastructure? What are your sort of day-to-day challenges?
Yeah, I think the first challenge in terms of day-to-day is the human capacity, because I also see we need to have first human capacity in place before bringing, other infrastructure to be able to work. And then so we've been during the last year contributing to building human capacity. We gradually building a team with quite competent young scientists who are very proficient in bioinformatics pipeline and analysis. And we're also working towards building the infrastructure. So we're gradually upgrading our infrastructure. We started with a small HPC, which is allowing us to kind of do some computational, highly burdened computational calculation and analysis, and we are gradually building it, and it's improving. And almost every year or every 2 years, we're able to augment both the number of nodes that we can use for the calculation and the storage capacity as well, in order to respond to the national needs and to improve as well the local environment in terms of bioinformatics analysis.
Right. So there's basically 2 points, right? Firstly is the human capital. You have individuals with skill set that can actually do the bioinformatic analysis, whether it's downstream analysis or running different pipelines. Then the second point you mentioned is the infrastructure. So that's hardware, software. The institution needs to essentially upgrade this from one year to the next in order to handle the amount of data that's coming in, whether it's the computational calculation or the space issue as you have more and more data coming through.
I think it's the computational in terms of calculation, and as well, I think the sequencing,
The
because somehow
sequencing.
the ability as well to be able to generate genetic data and sequencing data is quite important. So we've gradually been upgrading this as well, with increasing the number of sequences and the number of technologies that we use as well, being able to combine both short read and long read sequencing technologies and so on.
Okay, and then you obviously mentioned that you're here as a group leader. So tell us about your journey. Why did you want to become involved in the ABI? What are your expectations of the ABI?
Well, I think the expectation is more about the need to be part of a network in which we kind of like being able to address the challenges on the continent, to work in terms of networking and strengthening the network that we already have on the continent in different aspects. I think one of the main challenges as a group leader or as a lead in terms of genetic epidemiology on the continent and in my country is to be able to handle and to have different specialties. I think we're building our team and we're gradually building the scheme and trying to expand the different scope of the research that we're doing. So it's important to be exposed as well. I think having contribution from someone who has expertise in host pathogen is allowing me as well to eventually train a young scientist and have him work together, being mentored by someone who is expert in pathogens so that he can grow as well in the different field and specialties. You can think as well in terms of clinical genomics. If I'm doing more of a population-based studies, so I'm not an expert in clinical genetics or clinical bioinformatics, that being part of a network, you have exposure and you're able to kind of have support from people who have the expertise in the specific niche, and then be able to as well graduate, upgrade the team, and expand the scope of the research that you can do locally.
Right. So you mentioned that you want essentially the ABI to be an umbrella. Under this umbrella, there will be many institutions, and each of these institutions would have a very niche or very focused skill set. So although your institution maybe doesn't have, people that's expert in Nextflow, you are able to expand the network and contact someone within the network who actually have that skill set that can bring their expertise and knowledge to you.
Exactly. And I think to make it even more easy, I think within the ABI, most of from the discussion we had, something which is coming up is being able to kind of set up common pipelines and set up common repositories and materials and workflows so that we can be able to use it evenly in the continent and then bridge this gap that is existing in the region or even between institutions in terms of capacity and ability to support the scientific community in terms of bioinformatics.
Right. So ABI should be essentially a host where you can actually share knowledge, share data, and even share perhaps infrastructure or resources so that there are more opportunity out there for the next generation of young scientists.
Exactly. You couldn't have
Okay.
described it more better.
Okay. So as we come to the last part of this interview, I think I have two final questions for you. So firstly, as someone who's worked in this field for a long time, what advice would you give to the next generation of people who want to become bioinformaticians, people that's coming out from a computational background or biology background, but they want to do a career path in bioinformatics, data analysis? What are the actionable steps that they can take?
I think the first thing is being very motivated.
Okay.
I would say as well, identify your niche very early. I think on the continent, we still we very far to reach the critical mass of bioinformatician.
Okay.
And actually, with all the developments that are available in the methods with AI and which is contributing in terms of analysis and all of those things, it's important for us on the continent to have the young generation of scientists being embedded in terms of bioinformatics capacity to start careers as well. And I think, in some respect as well, it's important for us as well to create the environment to absorb and to retain those brains to avoid brain drain. Because it's not just important to train, but it's important to train and retain and have people having a career path into which they can grow in our environment by being engaged with stakeholders, with policymakers, so that they start considering bioinformatics as a career, as a professional career in research, or even from the Ministry of Health perspective, in terms of being able to analyze data to provide diagnostic in the different laboratories that we have on the continent.
Right. So I think you brought up an important point. Once you spend, years or workshops on these individuals, they might leave for better opportunity in America and the UK. So it's essential for perhaps the ABI to work with stakeholders like the Africa CDC or the government to ensure there are enough good long-term sustainable opportunities so that people actually stay in the institution or the in country.
Exactly, that's very important because what we've seen during the past 10, 15 years is that a lot of people have been trained, but the ability to retain people in terms of research or, in the scale where we can really see the translation of bioinformatics capacity and things has been quite low. We've been competing with industry as well, with all those big data, area and all of who are kind of like absorbing some part of the people that have having the skills that can contribute in terms of research in bioinformatics.
No, that's a big point. Like you can't stop people from wanting better things.
Yes.
So I think the last question I have for you is, we are in the fourth industrial revolution, and it's the middle of 2026. AI has been with us for 3 4 years now. We have seen artificial intelligence, large language models in every aspect of whether smartphones, computers, or just running day-to-day activities. Um, in this world, how do you think AI is going to affect, the future of bioinformaticians, the future of technology, or Africa as a whole?
AI can really be transformative in terms of environment, and I think in an environment in which as well, you don't have the ability and you can't, let's say, training people are requiring a lot of times. So being able to have like a support from AI as well is kind of like fostering these initiatives. And I think AI and whatever we can, in whichever area we should apply AI should really contribute, to advance the goals of the ABI. We're not seeing it as a concurrent thing or a competition against AI, but as something and a technology that we should bend and embrace and use leverage in terms of attaining our objectives.
Yeah, I think you spoke about curiosity and being motivated. I think one should really be in a path of learning and trying to sort of embed into the world of AI, not reject this idea going forward.
Exactly.
No, I think that's a really valuable point. Yeah, I really want to acknowledge and thank you for your time, sir.
You're welcome. Thanks to you.